Pit Pass podcast, and I am Mark Askelson, the racetrack announcer at Norman County Raceway and co-host of this, and alongside me is my co-host, Mr. Kalvin Kesselberg, driving the number 11 IMCA stock car, and special edition of the Pit Pass podcast because we're on the road, Kalvin.
Yeah, we're wheels up for Dacotah Speedway in Mandan, North Dakota, and yeah, this is a little different setting for the old Pit Pass podcast.
Yeah, we've turned your bighorn into a small studio. It's nice and cozy. I like it. We've got wires everywhere, but trying to make this happen because we were kind of due to record a podcast anyways. Try to get them on about every 3 weeks or so, and then this week I saw you're going to Mandan and said, "Hey, I'll hop in. We'll record a podcast."
Yeah, well, you're actually interim crew chief.
Yeah, so by default, because it's just me and you tonight, so you have to listen to what I have to say, right? So if I'm going to be crew chief, you got to listen to what I got to say.
Yep, a lot of pressure though. I mean, new track, never been there, new setup in the car. So basically, if we suck, it's your fault.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll take the blame, and it's an easy person to blame. So, let's talk about this. So we're kicking off the race season. The last time we recorded, we were kind of previewing the season, and I think we're maybe hoping for a test and tune this week. We're kind of geared up on that, but kind of talk to me about the decision, Kalvin, to go racing and head on over to Mandan.
Well, every racer has it. I'm sure maybe it's the same like as an announcer, but every racer has it. There's that one blister somewhere, and you just got to itch it, you know? Like that racing, I mean, it's an itch, so you just got to itch it. And my car's been ready since, like, January.
Yep.
So I try to get ahead of all that, and it just kind of worked out with the store schedule. Jake covered for me there for the afternoon, so everything just kind of worked out. We didn't really have too much going on, no track sales or nothing. And, the Mandan's having their season opener, and I don't know, I'd almost like to get out there for the night 2 of the Meltdown. Of course, like the night 1 is Friday of our opener at Red River Valley Speedway. So, I don't know, just maybe a little feeler or something. I changed a lot with the car, and maybe just try to get a head start maybe on the season.
This is the first time, my understanding, that you've ever started the season with a race, and we've been usually pretty lucky for some test and tunes, but
our studio's falling apart.
Thank goodness for those shocker hitches that we got hooked up that you can get at Performance Auto, but it's a little bumpy out here in North Dakota. So first time going out and actually, just racing right off the bat. So what are your nerves and kind of expectations doing that?
It's always good just to have a test and tune just to shake it. Not that you're gonna really learn anything.
Yep.
But just to turn some laps, nut and bolt the car, make sure nothing's gonna fall apart. So obviously we didn't get that. So I mean, I probably could have waited, but I took it for the test and tune around the old Bitker Ranch. Woke the neighbors up. Shifted into high gear. I got brakes at turns. Nothing fell off. So I don't know. I think it's pretty close to race ready.
Yeah, I think so. Good enough for me. And this kind of works out for me too, because since we've been doing this podcast, like, I've been getting really excited about racing. And so, it works out, and things are slow for me at work. So happy to be out there and come out to a new track for me too. So it's not just new to you, it's new to me. It's new to both of us. So there's a lot to experience. So what are maybe how do you approach a race like this as far as goals, right? I mean, obviously you want to make sure you want to come home in one piece. You want to win the race.
Yep.
Or you want to do well and you want to win the race, right? That's obviously your expectations. But do you kind of prioritize, like, no, I want to win the race more than I want this car to come home in one piece? Or what are your kind of, what are your realistic expectations? What do you value most out of a first race like this?
It's always nice to go somewhere and see how you stack up to, other tracks or other groups of guys. I do think Fargo is competitive. I think it's very competitive.
Yeah.
Going somewhere like this, especially first time of the year, first night, new setup in the car. We got new shocks from Awesome Motorsports. Just all that, like, you can't really have too much for expectations. I think I'm going to use it. I think I'm using it more as, like, maybe a test.
Okay.
Biggest goal, I mean, with anywhere that you go, I just want to be competitive. If I can get in there, and run a top 5, I mean, that's a pretty good goal. Obviously, everyone wants to win. I want to win. And I think if we do win, I think that would set a pretty high standard for the season, which hoping to have a little bit more competitive of a season this year than last year. Obviously you're always striving for, like, that next big step or the next, step forward. You're always trying to be better than last year. So I think if we can build our notebook and, stay competitive and come home in one piece, I think we'll be ahead for Fargo.
And you've started the year with a win back in 2022. I was looking at your stats here prior to this, I think, and usually your best 2 months are like the end of May through June is like your best month of racing. I don't know if you know that or not.
Yeah.
That's at least that's what most of your wins are.
Unfortunately, this sounds like an excuse, but it's true. It is a byproduct of, maybe a little bit of my job.
Yeah.
Love my job. Love Performance Auto. Love the people that we deal with, all that. But it's a lot of work.
Yep.
And with that, I had my racing gets put on the back burner, which I'm fine with. That's obviously going into, what I do. That's number one. I'd rather make sure that everyone else can race and that everything's easily accessible and that everything's there when they need it, and make sure that everyone else has their stuff rolling kind of before I'd focus on mine.
Yep.
And that's some of why my stuff's ready so early, is just so springtime I can really focus on at the store, making sure that stock orders are done and stuff's caught up and parts trailers are ready, and all that. So maybe some of the byproduct of that, because, you're really fresh from the winter and everything's, nothing's broke yet, but there is stuff later on in the year that, stuff wears out and you don't catch it, and, but not complaining and not anything like that. I love what I do, and it's just a byproduct of it, and if I get to race, I guess that's good enough for me. I'm lucky.
And I'm sure you could put some of the blame on the IMC point invert, right? Because towards the end of the year, you're usually up there in points, so you're always starting towards the back. So you're always working from behind a little bit. It's kind of doesn't help things. It makes competition great. It makes the racing great.
Yep.
But it doesn't give you a chance to kind of walk away from anything either.
Yep, exactly. It and if anything, the way I actually like the way that the point average is set up. It makes the heat races worth something.
Oh yeah.
So the heat race, it's not like I'm gonna go to the window, draw one, start on the pole, win the heat. Like, you gotta really be on your game for the heat race, because you gotta get into that transfer to start up in the top 8 spots if you are in that position. So the way that the IMCA point average does work, maybe, I'm sure other people won't agree, but I think I like it. I like that. I almost, last year the 2 races that I won, I started like 6th or 8th.
Okay.
I started farther back, so I think it does make racing better.
And I think it's great as a fan, as an announcer. It makes things more interesting when you have better races like that. It can be interesting when you start getting some younger drivers that, starting up front or whatever.
Yep.
It can make, especially in some of like the legend classes or the entry level classes, it can make things a little hairy at times, but it also makes them have to step up a little bit, and
makes it better.
And overall, I think it makes it better. I like it. Draw redraw is really good for those special events.
Yep.
Like, that's still probably the best way to go about things.
Yep.
Kind of doing like how some do, the passing points, things like that for some of those specials too is really cool. But
once in a while, I think that's good. The passing point thing,
you have to have a lot of cars.
You have to have a lot of cars, and you're kind of a slave to the draw almost.
Yeah.
Because if you draw one, like, you don't want that, but you definitely don't want to be last row.
Yeah,
you have to win. And then, so if the track's locked down or whatever, that could hurt you too.
Yep.
but it could benefit you as well if you're on top of it. The only, probably my only downfall with maybe the point average is it hurts the travelers. It rewards the local guys. It hurts the travelers.
Yeah.
Because you gotta, like now, say we get to like middle of the year, July or something, and I have a free Saturday or whatever. I'm like, oh, I want to go to Brainerd. Well, unless I've gone to Brainerd the first 2 nights and have a point average, you're starting tail end.
Yeah.
So you gotta look for a redraw show or something like that. But
gotcha. Well, it's the first race for everyone here tonight in Mandan at Dacotah Speedway, their season opener. And they should note too, we're going to record half this episode on the way to the racetrack, and then on the way home tonight, we're going to do the second half. And we're going to this is what I really wanted to do with the podcast. I didn't actually think we'd be able to do it immediately after the race, kind of on the cool down period, like to actually go and break it down, which would be kind of fun because everything will still be fresh in our memory. To talk about what happened. We can break down the heat race, the feature race, what adjustments you made, or I guess we made, if you're counting me as your interim crew chief tonight. But yeah, so we can kind of talk about those adjustments that we made and how things went tonight. We could talk about the track, and again, it's being our first time there, so what we experienced, what we liked, what we didn't like. What do you know about, Mandan, Dacotah Speedway? What do you know about the track? Anything?
Well, I've watched a couple YouTube videos, and Mason Aaron. He's a local videographer. Check out his videos on YouTube. He does a great job covering, and he's everywhere. I mean, this guy, he lives for racing, so he doesn't race himself, but he lives for being the videographer and doing all that. But so he does a great job. So I've watched a couple of his videos of Dacotah Speedway, and talking to a couple guys. On camera, it doesn't look as banked. It doesn't look, like it's very high banked. But talking to guys that have raced it, they say it's very high banked. And so kind of what I'm getting out of it is it's almost like a cross between Norman County Raceway and Red River Valley Speedway. Longer straightaways, maybe a little more swooping turns, maybe like a Fargo-esque type deal. So
maybe a hint of Jamestown in there.
Jamestown
in there,
So I don't know. I've gotten some gearing suggestions from guys, and knowing that I always gear lower than everyone, I kind of made my decision off that. So I'm going with 614s in tonight. And like I said, this is kind of like a feeler for maybe next weekend or something. If we go there and God, I could have used more RPM, or I could have used more mile an hour. So this is just kind of a, maybe a little bit of a gauge for me.
And I suppose this also, it's an opportunity for you to get some notes in case you come, we're to run because they have a stop here on the North or the Dacotah.
Dacotah Mod
Tour. So if you were to go out and run that, Larry, at least have some notes there. Obviously, Jamestown, and you maybe know some other tracks, but at least got a few more notes for the notebook, I guess.
Yep. And that's the hardest thing, with that mod tour. You don't really get a whole lot of time to feel out a track. They give you hot laps, but it's 3 laps.
Yeah, and that heat race means a lot.
It means everything,
So.
And so you're racing against guys, like Angel Munoz and Zach Madrid and all them guys. I mean, God, who, all the guys that come up from Texas and all that, Shelby Williams, that's who I was trying. He runs this tour every year. Those guys have a notebook on these racetracks. They know, okay, and they're efficient. They've got good crews and everything where if they need to make a gear change, they change gears quick. And they've seen all these tracks in different conditions, so they know, okay, if Jamestown's muddy, I need to run this gear. If it's starting to slick off, I need to run this gear and run this setup. So you're maybe at a little bit of a disadvantage on the mod tour if you don't have a notebook for these tracks, but we'll see.
What do you know about the local talent that you'll be up against here? I know we'll have a couple of drivers that you're used to racing against that'll be part of the field, but I know it's a pretty tough group out there.
Yep. God, they're a very stout field out there, just like Red River Valley Speedway.
Yeah.
you got Marlon Seidler, Strand.
Yep.
And Mark Dahl and Jason Berg and Scotty Gardner. I mean, all of them guys, they all run very competitively. And you'll have Todd Carter. Todd Carter will be here.
Okay.
And he's very good at Mandan. So some of that, like, I think tonight, I mean, if we can pull off a win, that would be outstanding. But if we can pull off like a top 5, with this crowd, I think we'll have a pretty good idea of where the rest of our year is going to be.
Gotcha. Yeah, good way to start the year. And next week you got Red River Valley Speedway, and so that season gets underway. Was this kind of like a last-minute decision for you? Did you plan the year to kind of come here to Dacotah, or was this kind of like, car's ready, I'm ready to go, let's just go?
Yeah. This was my buddy Andrew Jokum went out for their test and tune like a couple weeks ago, or last week, and he left his car out here, and he's like, "Hey, I'm going to Mandan next week. You should come with. Like, I think you should race there. I think you'd like it." And so I kind of hemmed and hawed, and I was like, I don't know. I'm not very good at traveling, And then finally I was talking to Haley about it, and she's like, I think you should go. Like, you should get out of here. Go race that thing. So
that's good when the wife or the future wife says, get out of the house, go racing. Like,
yep.
You do not turn that down.
No, you got to keep that one.
Yep. And yeah, even my wife, too, when I asked her about it, seemed, yeah, go ahead. Get out of there.
That's awesome.
Now, she's going to be gone for a few days, so that makes it easier decision. Like, okay, well, I'm going to be gone for a few days, so you can leave Friday or whatever for a bit. So
yeah. The joke was, if we win Mandan tonight, we have to race Minot tomorrow.
Okay.
So I didn't pack any clothes, did you?
I did not. I'd have to find a babysitter, I think, for tomorrow night, but because the wife leaves tomorrow night. But we'll figure it out. If we win, that's a whole nother problem, I guess.
We'll figure that out later.
I mean, I'd love to stay and race another day if I could. Cross another new track off the bucket list. But yeah, I'd be all for it. The weather's nice. Great weather here for like.
It is. It's beautiful out. I think, what is it, 63 degrees or 61? I think is what it's saying.
69,
right?
but that's the interior temperature.
Oh, that's the interior.
Oh, no, 61. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
61.
Okay.
But. So nice, little bit of wind maybe. So hopefully the track, I don't think they got hit by the rain that they were supposed to this week. So maybe the track will be a little slick, which Mandan usually is. Which I think that will help our slick setup, because I do, halfway through the year, I think that is some of it. I struggle maybe a little bit with my slick setup. So maybe this will help that and grow the notebook there. And yeah,
awesome. Again, we're on our way. We are recording this podcast on the road. So, again, we do apologize for... There's definitely going to be some bumpiness I'm noticing here in the headphones. Like, it's a little rough out here on the interstate in the scenic North Dakota. This is a first for me recording, like, on the road. But
it's all right. It's live.
What else are we going to do on a 3-hour drive out to Mandan?
Well, yeah, you have to get some fresh content for the Pit Pass Podcast Nation.
So here's another question for you, which is, for me being interim crew chief here tonight, what do you want me to be on the lookout for, or as my new duties as crew chief here tonight, who knows not that much about setups, but I know a thing or two about racing, and what should I be watching for to help you?
The biggest thing, and it might be easier for me tonight since I don't have I'm not dealing with like a performance auto parts trailer tonight. Yep. So we're just racing. But the biggest thing, keep your eye on the track. If they go out and farm it, like, okay, then maybe we gotta change something, or or if it's looking like the track's starting to lock down, okay, well, now we gotta change something. Just if one of us just keeps an eye on that, or if we look at cars that come off the track driving through the pits and they got a lot of mud on them, yep. or if they don't have any, or if their tires are tore up, well, then, that kind of helps everything, that helps all the decision making leading up to the race. So that's definitely a big thing, that usually it's really good for crew guys to really be keeping an eye on the track. If your driver can't really, just to keep an eye on the track. Like, okay, guys are running high over here and low over here, or there's a hole here, there's traction coming out of the middle of two, or, something like that. that's a good thing to keep an eye on.
And if nothing else, I hope I can be the guy to just someone to bounce an idea off of, right?
Yep.
Like to talk you out or talk you into a decision. You're probably going to be the best one to make that decision. But sometimes you need someone to ask a question to maybe help you realize or think about something, right?
Yep.
Like you just need someone to give you another perspective or ask why you want to do that, or should you, to ask that, make you think about that, and make your decision from there.
Yeah, absolutely. It never hurts. I have a pretty good idea of what every change will do. So that's, that'll be feedback coming from you outside the car. Okay, now you can watch my car. Obviously I'm in car, but there's some other things that, I'm focusing on, not hitting this guy or trying to hit this spot or, or whatever. Where outside the car, you get a different perspective on what the car actually looks like. So if you can watch my wheels and watch, okay, you're really turning to the left. So that would mean that you're tight. If I'm really turning to the left and really trying to steer the car, that means that we're too tight. But if I'm in the car and I'm like, God, I feel loose. If I, to free a car up in car, I'm going to crank more rear brake in to try to free it up. But coming from the outside, I mean, if you're seeing that and I'm in car, but I'm focusing on getting more rear brake so I can free up, or or vice versa. If I'm trying to do the opposite, but I'm focused on that, but you're watching the car and you're like, God, this thing, it's pushing, or it's, or you're pushing on exit, or you're pushing on entry. Some of that, as far as feedback from like your pit crew, that's huge.
And I think the one thing that it will be more difficult for me here because I don't know the drivers as well. I've helped you in the pits a few times before. Like I think once in Fargo and once out in Lisbon. I know the drivers kind of at those tracks, right? Mm-hmm. That's the ones that I see every week and I know. So I think there was one time in Fargo where I'm like looking at the lineup, hey, this guy in front of you, he's gonna be hesitant. You have to get on him. I think that was I'm gonna give you a little bit of advice to one time. Like he's a younger driver. He's not gonna want to be real aggressive. You're starting behind him. You're going to have to push right around him. Or I think the advice was like, get right on his bumper on the start.
Yep.
So those things I know the drivers very well. Here it'll be a little more difficult because I don't know the other talent as well and what their behaviors are and how they race. Whereas in Fargo Nada, those guys around the area, I know them pretty well. I know their habits.
Yep. Yeah. That's where like watching the other heat races is going to be very important.
Yep.
Just to try to build some of that knowledge. And that might be more on you because I'll probably be in staging or whatever. So like some of that's important too. Just get a feel for your competition and that's some of the tracks that do hot laps. If you can almost watch hot laps and not go out there, you can learn a lot of that.
Do they do hot laps here?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so. It's interesting this track, because this track is in general looking at the track. A lot of things interesting here with Dacotah Speedway because some people park on the infield. They have some infield pit area. Also, the grandstands are really far away from it seemed like they're really far away or high up from the track. It's kind of the track is a bit away from the, which is weird to go to other tracks like North Central Speedway.
It's right on it. Yeah.
You sit on top of that track if you're a fan, which I love because you feel like you're part of the action. So that's kind of just different from an aesthetic thing.
I don't know if they still do it, but the reason it's so far back is there's a horse track around the outside of the raceway.
Really? Well, and the flake stand is in the infield.
Yes.
Yeah, at Dacotah Speedway.
Oh, our studio's falling apart too.
We're still good.
We're still kicking.
We're still. I think everything's still together, so we're good.
Thank God this Ram from Kelly's Chrysler and Ada's holding up.
Yeah, exactly. We got the shocker hitch Performance Auto. We got it all.
We got it all.
We could have, it's better than probably being in the trailer recording right now, which would be really difficult going down the highway. But this works. We get to have some conversation.
It's live. It's like action shots.
This is kind of live.
It's like watching cops.
And I'm hoping we can do this more often. It could be a special, series of on the road.
Yeah.
Pit Pass podcast on the road. I think our best content's going to be tonight when we come back and we talk about what happens at the racetrack. we're 4 episodes in now to Pit Pass Podcast.
Yeah, thank you all for listening.
Yeah, so I mean, what are you hearing from people here, Calvin? Or
the people want more.
Okay.
The people want more, which, and I'm open to suggestions. If there's something that someone wants us to talk about or wants to hear, or if there's something I can research and then come back to on the next podcast or something, I mean, let us know.
Yeah.
Hit up our Facebook page, message the page. You can message me personally if you want. But if there is something, or if someone wants to learn more about brakes, or if they want to learn more about, engine combination or something, shocks or springs or something, hit us up. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Open to suggestions.
We'll have some more guests here throughout the season. I think the guests will be kind of topical with what's going on throughout the year. I think I'm hoping to bring in some outlaw drivers maybe later in the year.
Yeah, something like that. That'd be
a lot of fun. And we'll bring in a guest to maybe talk about a certain topic, maybe engine building, maybe frame building,
chassis building.
So we're going to try and keep it topical and keep it interesting, and not just us BSing the whole time, which is still fun too, but it's kind of part of it.
It is good, but if we can make this so it, so maybe it's a little educational.
Yep.
I think that'd be good. I think people would enjoy that, and hopefully it's good knowledge. It's helpful.
One little current event topic I wanted to talk about, just an observation that I noticed this week here, and I've kind of been noticing it. Man, everyone's got a late model now, Calvin. Even you. Well, you got one on the side.
Yeah.
But I cannot believe how many drivers are switching to late models. Guys coming from B mods, from modifieds, from slingshots. No, we'll see those tonight, by the way.
Yeah, we will.
We got slingshots tonight. We'll get to see those. I didn't know those are still around, but they got those here at Dacotah Speedway. But what is your take on the migration to late models here? This whole trend, it happened 10 years ago. Yep.
There was a lot of guys that jumped out of a modified into a late model, and then they kind of all trickled back into the modified. I think some of that is how competitive the class is. Maybe it's maybe a benefit because late models are competitive.
Yep.
But maybe it's more of a downfall to modifieds because modifieds are so competitive.
Yeah.
Especially that WISSOTA modified, that division. I mean, you go anywhere you go to Ogilvy, you go to Fergus Falls, wherever. I mean, that division is stacked. It's, so I think maybe some of that, I'm not saying that guys are cherry picking or anything like that.
No.
I think maybe it's, a little more driver friendly, maybe.
So that's one of the things that I've heard guys that especially moved up from a modified and into a late model. It's a lot of this, I don't want to say a lot of the same setups, it's probably not, but you have twice the tire. And maybe not twice the tire, but you have a much bigger tire, and you have a lot more traction.
You have a car that's designed to be a race car, not a front clip that some rednecks like us chopped it up and made it into a race car. But the thing about a late model, I granted I don't have that much seat time. I mean, I don't, I'm not super comfortable with the late model. I think I'm smooth enough to stay out of the way.
Yeah.
And I've won a heat race.
Yeah, so you won a heat race. That means something.
Done something won a B main too. I want to throw that in.
Yep.
B main bandit here.
Yeah.
But the thing about a late model, and I've only driven an IMCA modified just a couple of times, a handful.
Yeah.
Thing about a modified, you have to drive the living crap out of that thing. You have to drive it you're so angry at it and just mad at this car to get it to work. Where a late model, yes, you have to drive them as hard as you can, but when they're working, say it's working how it should.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you drive that thing, you sit back and you eat a sandwich. Seriously, yeah.
Really?
But when it's not driving, if that thing wants to push up the racetrack or push like a dump truck or spin out or whatever, if that thing does push, you drive it straight up the track, off the track, into the pits, go to your trailer, try again another day. You're not going to fight it. A modified stock car, B-mod, stuff like that, if that thing's tight and unhappy, you can kind of wrestle it. You can kind of wheel it harder and just get it to behave. But a late model, not happening. If that thing doesn't want to drive, it ain't driving. Park it. Try again another day. Save your money.
And it's good to see this resurgence in a late model, because we've seen like that class was getting down pretty slim there for a while, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You saw the sprint car we're doing, like there was a huge field of sprint cars at the time, and now it kind of swapped where the sprint cars are going to be down in numbers, and the late models are up. But I mean, we see this throughout history. Certain classes are low and high and things like that, so I'm not going to worry too much about whatever. But it is it's good to see the competition, and I hope it just makes our competition in our area tougher. And some of these guys that are moving up, they have opportunities. They're guys that could probably run with some of the outlaw guys.
Yeah,
like, we got some guys that are. So it'd be interesting to see them. We've actually seen a couple of guys like locally, like Dan Ebert now running, and Dustin Sorensen and Tim. We got like 3 guys.
Yeah.
Like from former mod guys running national series late model races right now from Minnesota. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
and I think there could be a couple more. I feel like there's a couple guys in our area that
definitely could do it.
That could do it.
Yep.
Yeah. Like a Tyler Peterson is one that I think could absolutely do it. So I don't know if he ever will. I'm not saying he's going to, but I think he's got a shot, or he could do well. So
I mean, I'm not saying anything, and I don't want to jinx anything, but if Brandon Shepard leaves Rocket, Mark Richards, call Tyler.
Oh, 100%. I whatever. He's already got the number.
He's already got the number.
He got the number 1. It's an easy switch.
It's a Rocket already. I mean, come on.
Absolutely.
What do we got to do to make this happen?
He's just got to listen to this podcast. Mark Richards, if you're listening, hit us up. We'll get you connected. We'll get you, as if he needs our, at least to contact us to get hold of Tyler Peterson. All right. Okay, so.
I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
So, as an announcer, what do you do to, like, prepare for, like, say you have a special and there's guys coming that you don't necessarily know on a weekly basis or anything,
Yep.
You don't have a good history with them. How do you prepare for that? Do you kind of research them? Do you, how does that work?
Yeah, so I try to find out who's going to be coming or who could potentially be coming. If it's a traveling series, look at the points. Try and watch a video or something. One, to try and get a pronunciation. Like if there's like weird pronunciations.
Oh, yeah.
And if I don't know their pronunciation, I try to go find them in the pits before the race and just ask, is it Michelson or is it Mickelson or whatever, Yeah. One that always, so I try and get those right, and so I don't mess it up and say, let them know I'm the announcer and try and talk to them a little bit. But yeah, so I try to, just do a little research, see if I can find some points or who would typically come. Once they start, like if it's Norman County Raceway, we're pretty good at like getting the pre-entry list up ahead of time.
Yeah.
So I'm always checking that. And then I can, thank goodness for my race pass. They make everything so easy as an announcer. Like, so I can go look in their profile, see where they've raced, if they've won recently, any little factoid or nickname or something that I can find about them that I can incorporate, into my call or into my race. Because anytime I can add a little bit of content or interesting and figure out where they're from and what's the distance. Sometimes I like to find out there's something neat about the town that they live in, just to give their community or where they're from a little shout out and make them feel welcome.
Yeah.
I also like to try, like when I'm in the stands, like if there's new people and I know there's new people in the stands because there's new drivers and things like that, I always try to welcome. Hey, if you're new to Norman County Raceway, or hey, thanks to this clan for coming up. Like, I try to make them like feel like welcome. I think the track does a good job of that in general. If there's someone new, people are always willing to talk to them, or the first people they'll probably meet are the people in the beer garden, and those guys are always friendly. But no, I just try to do a little information that way. Stop by and talk to them in the pits if I can. I can't always talk to everyone. I'm not the most I can be outgoing if I know people, but I'm not. I think people think that I'm like just super friendly and super talkative and a lot of these things. I'm a little bit introverted, so it can be really difficult, like being an announcer and being an MC and being introverted. But you just got to get out of your comfort zone and try and talk to people and just get to know them a little bit. That's like the biggest thing I feel like of being a good announcer is just trying to get to know the drivers on a friendship level or on a friend level. Sometimes you got to call a black flag on them, and sometimes you got to call a caution on them, and sucks or whatever. But it's the more you get to know them, the easier it is and the better it is. So,
how about like in the booth? Do you have like, you know, us racers? We talk about our notebook. Our notebook is so big. Do you have a notebook in the booth?
Sometimes. Now I don't have like Ron Krogh is like the best at this. Ron Krogh's got a laptop and he's got info on every single driver. I don't have that. I don't have the time to go through that.
Yeah.
And Ron's really old school, and I applaud him for that. But I don't quite have that. I do have a notebook of, you know, before the race, I'm chatting with Jake and Charnel, trying to get, you know, if there's any specific sponsorship information I need to know.
Oh, yeah.
I've done it a lot, so I've gotten to kind of know the sponsors, so it's not as big of a deal anymore. A lot of stuff is kind of just memorized, or I know the local sponsors. So I'll write that stuff down. I'll write notes before the race of anything unique that we're doing, or an order, if there's someone's birthday, if there's whatever. So, you know, I have notes like of things to talk about, you know, to keep me. So like, you know, talk about the 50-50 drawing, talk about the kids, the junior fan club, talk about the candy toss, talk about the website, talk about merchandise. So I just have a list, and that's all I really need. A lot of the stuff I have memorized and can ad-lib, but I just need a list, and I can kind of rotate through that list of things that I want to talk about. You know, thank the sponsors, thank this. So I do kind of have some notes. I have a concessions list, and I have a beer list. And so that I'm always,
that's the
you
important
gotta have that
one.
to, you know, those things that they know.
Wait, do you get like service up in the booth? Like,
no.
Is there like a golden button where it's like?
I wish. Now,
you know what we should find for you?
What?
A beer assistant.
We
are now taking applications for a beer assistant at Norman County Raceway and River Valley Speedway.
And I typically don't drink during the race or anything like that.
Oh, that's probably a good plan.
Yeah.
I should have thought about that.
Yeah. You know, sometimes there's been something I've had a beer before a race or something. It's nice to take the edge off a little bit, but you know, I do take it seriously.
It's true. You are working.
And Jake and Charnel, they're kind of not the type that they don't want anyone drinking, I don't think, or anything like that. So I don't drink before the race. I try not to. The bus racing might be a little different. I might have a beer before the race. A bus race.
Yeah, that's
bus
different.
Races.
That's,
you know, I don't really do much during bus
I don't
races.
think there are rules at bus races.
There's no rules for bus races. I think some of the drivers might be drinking before the race. No, it's not happening. But no, so it would be nice. So I go get my concessions before at 6 o'clock. I have a very strict schedule.
Okay.
So I get to the race probably 5 o'clock. Well, I stop at Subway first, get a 6-inch sub, usually a cold cut combo or spicy Italian with bacon.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Every week, get that, go to the racetrack, get there about 4:45 or 5, grab my four-wheeler, go talk around through the pits and stuff, get my walkie-talkie or my radio, kind of make my rounds, talk to a lot of the same folks or whatever. It's also one of the difficult things is it's Thursday night, so not all the drivers get there right away.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
But then comes 6 o'clock, I usually head to the grandstands, and I turn everything on before. I should say, when I get there, get my four-wheeler, go turn on everything in the booth, get everything set up. Then I come back, go around the bits. Okay. So I go back to the booth at 6 o'clock, and then I go to the concession stand. I get either nachos or not tacos in a bag, a pop, and water or whatever. Usually water, I guess, and a Gatorade.
Yeah, especially in the summer.
And sometimes I buy 2 waters, and I tell them to leave one behind the thing.
Oh,
and then I come get it during intermission. And then I go up and get everything and kind of start getting going and whatnot. So you can about time me pretty perfectly. Like, if it's like 6:05 and I'm not up front yet, like,
something's wrong.
Right? It's like I'm probably like itching. Like, I'm probably having a conversation with someone, and I'm very like on the clock on everything I do. So I don't like to get behind. But the nice thing is when I stick to a schedule and I do things ahead of time, I can get behind, and I'm not messing up.
So worried, yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. This is why I get here early if things mess up.
It's always interesting because, like, I think a lot of us racers, you know, we're so focused on how much work goes into our side of it.
Yep.
And, like, we don't realize that there is a whole nother team of people that are busting their tails to make everything else happen.
Yeah, I mean, everything from the concession stand to
everything.
You know,
the ticket gate,
track workers.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, everyone's got a job to do. I mean,
Yep, and it takes a whole team to get it. It's just like racing. I mean, racing a car and running a track, I think, go hand in hand. I think they're exactly the same. Like, there's a lot of work involved from a lot of people, and everyone has to be on their A game all the time.
Yep.
And I think that's what's so cool, and that's what I enjoy, maybe about this is knowing the announcer side of it.
Yep.
I think that's pretty sweet.
Well, the thing with a racetrack is you don't want, one bad apple can ruin it for a lot of people. Because a fan interacts with so many different people. They interact with the people at the ticket stand, then they interact with someone at the concession stand, then they interact with someone at the beer garden, then they interact with someone taking tickets, and then they interact with the announcer. If one of those person
ruins the night.
Yeah, one of those persons can ruin that fan's night. Just one of that person being a little rude when they take your ticket. Your sister. No, just kidding. No. Yeah, because your sister does.
Yep.
Yeah. No, she's always great. The ticket ladies in Ada are actually awesome. They're super friendly. But yeah, if that person at the beer garden is kind of a jerk or someone overcharges or doesn't give them their change back, it's going to ruin their night, right? So, or if I mess up someone's name, and I always, it happens, or if I, whatever, I could easily mess up someone's night too. So, just one interaction. So everyone has to be on their game.
Yeah. Huh. That's, I enjoy it. I enjoy just hearing about that side of it because I've never really been around that side of it. I've been around pretty much all other sides of the racetrack. Maybe a little bit on the track prep side, early in the spring, not much, but and then the racing side and the parts side, but not the front side.
And you think about it, even in the pits, say, just like we're going to a racetrack for the first time. If someone in the pits is kind of rude or something like that to you, you ain't gonna want to go back as a racer.
Yeah.
And even if I, as an announcer, if there's a new driver that's not from the area or whatever, if I stop by and just have a conversation with them and I'm friendly to them, they're going to remember that.
Yep.
There's a nice announcer. Maybe no one talked to them, right? They don't know. Maybe they don't know anyone on this tour or whatever that they're on. Going that extra step to just try and say hi. Hey, welcome to Norman County Raceway. You need anything? Do you have any questions? And, a lot of times they do, where's this or where are the bathrooms? And yelp out. And that little interaction could make them want to come back there, make them feel welcome. That's so important, I think, in this industry. We are in the service industry. We really are.
Oh, yeah.
As running the racetrack. We're trying to serve the drivers and serve the fans and give them a show. So we got to make them feel welcome and feel, entertained.
Yeah, it's all an experience.
Yeah, and that's what sells tickets is experiences.
Yep.
That's why they pay $40 a ticket for a World of Outlaws show. I think I mentioned this in our kind of our meeting last year before the World of Outlaws. They come for the experience. It's not just the race. It's not just the cars. It's the feel of the event.
Yep.
Everything that goes on makes it seem bigger. That's why they pay $40 a ticket. They got to get their money's worth. It's got to feel special to them. So, and people nowadays are more willing to spend money on experiences than physical goods. That's kind of changed since COVID.
Yep.
That's what people want now. They want an experience when they go somewhere, not just to buy a physical thing. They want to go on trips. They want experiences, do something unique.
That's I never thought of that.
Yeah.
You are 100% correct. I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah, that's people have with their disposable income. That's how they want to spend it now. They've got enough goods. They have enough things like that. Even if they buy those things, say they buy a side by side, what do they want to do with it? Go on an experience. They want to have so those are things that really matter now. And I think if you understand that as a promoter and as a person who works at the track, you can help do that and get them coming back. And that's why you got to do things differently. And I think with Fargo, and we're kind of going on a tangent, but that's all right. We got some time. When they do things like the meet and greets, that's an experience for a fan, especially to go middle of the race, not way late after the race and meet the drivers and get their photos and things like that. It's really hard to do in Ada and Fargo and stuff, and just in general nowadays. But if they can do that in the middle of the race or before the race and get that experience, that one-on-one with the drivers, get to see them, that's something special. It's something different going on.
Yep. So. And especially my biggest thing at the meet and greet is my biggest thing at the meet and greet is to make it cool and special for the kids.
Yeah.
Because they are the future of the sport too.
Yeah.
You know, I was that kid running around, you know, with a hat full of candy and all the driver's cards that I could stack, and I'd
100%.
go home and tape them on my wall and do all that. Well, like now look, like now I've had the opportunity, I get to race. Now it's my turn to pass that dream on to like the next generation and their kids and all that. And you know, just like that, it's hard to remember that like when you're at the races because you're so caught up in everything.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if we don't get them and the younger generation into the races or into racing or helping, racing's not going to live.
Yeah.
And so that's a big part of my goal, like with a meet and greet, is to interact with kids, let them sit in the car, let them, you know, climb on it. It don't matter. I mean, that experience, like you said, is the next generation.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I look at some of my favorite drivers as a kid. The ones that I enjoy the most were, I mean, like Scotty Richardson, because Scotty's such a nice guy.
Yep.
Like, I grew up, like, he always was super nice to talk to and everything else, and was just, as a young kid, like, I looked up to him, and, you know, I got to do the fan trophy for him once, and that was a big part of it. But, like, I always, as a kid, would always enjoy talking with Scotty in the pits and things like that. And I look at another example. There was a time, and I don't even remember this happening, but I found out later in life. My brother was racing street stocks at the time. The Arndts, Thomas and Katie Arndt, like, must have came in the pits, and they were talking to my brother. Whenever they wanted a photo with him, like, and so they thought it was so cool to meet the driver, and they took a photo of him. Well, we found this photo later on, or like they shared it. Like, there's Thomas and Katie Arndt, who both became race car drivers. You know, hanging out with my brother, who took the time to just take a photo with them, and you don't realize the impact you have on someone, you know, until years later, and you know, they both became race car drivers.
Yeah, and that's how we keep our sport going.
Yeah,
that's it.
All right, so we are going. I think we're gonna break here before, you know, I think you're gonna need both hands on the wheel here, the way this thing's swaying
a
little
little
bit.
windy.
Yeah, they got a little hairy there. People don't realize that there was a little sway there where I was getting a little worried there. But I think we're gonna break here, and we're gonna go race. We'll be in Mandan about what, an hour? How far are we out?
About an hour.
Okay.
Yep.
They're starting to see a few more hills. Still no trees out here, but we're getting closer. So we're gonna start getting ready for the race. When we come back, we're gonna figure out how things went.
Hopefully, we have a big old trophy in the back seat.
Oh, absolutely.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to make you put a prediction on where you're gonna finish tonight, or do you want to make a prediction?
I'm hoping top 5.
Top 5?
I'm hoping top 5.
I'm guessing you're gonna get a heat win tonight.
I'm hoping so.
I'm thinking you're gonna heat win, and then maybe around there. And I know you're capable of doing well and winning, so we'll see. Hopefully that car comes back in one piece, because we're gonna be in a much better mood.
Yeah.
If that car is wrecked, it's gonna be a lot to talk about.
It'll be some good content.
A good content to talk about. Might be some drivers thrown under the bus or something. Who knows? But no. So we'll break here. When you come back, we'll be on our way home from Mandan. So stay tuned. Part 2 of Pit Pass Podcast is coming next. And we have returned with the Pit Pass Podcast for our Part 2. Following our on-the-road edition here to Dacotah Speedway in Mandan. Mark Askelson alongside Kalvin Kesselberg. Kalvin's driving like he has been wonderfully all night long. We talk about how things went tonight. Before we get into the results here in our late-night drive back towards Minnesota, without mentioning the results, does tonight meet your expectations?
Yeah, I don't know. We didn't, like we kind of had high expectations, but I think we did good. That crowd that you're running with, I think for what we did, for never being there ever, I think we did pretty good.
All right, well, let's break it down. Let's get into it. First off, I do want to just mention, real cool facility, real cool spot right there in Mandan, just outside of Bismarck. I don't know, just cool, nice place, nice concessions, nice a lot of. It's a nice facility.
Yep, very nice facility. Behind the grandstand, like that was kind of a cool little area, and all the workers were so friendly and welcoming and helpful, and Yeah, I mean, just a good crowd, good group of racers. I mean, I can't say anything bad about it. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so start off heat race. You drew a 41 out of 100.
Yep.
Put you inside the second row. Not terrible.
No, not bad. Second row inside, second heat. So.
And you started for third, finished third. Overall that puts you in the redraw, and you probably had a third place car at that time. And talk about how it went. You got up to second there for a little bit, and then back to third.
Yeah, Jason Berg and I were we were racing pretty hard there. He slid me a couple times. I think I slid him once, so that was just fun racing. The track was wide. It was nice and slick. Not hard on tires, not really hard on anything. So, that was pretty fun. And I think we only had a third place car. I think those guys really had that place figured out. And who was it? Dosh? I think Dosh started on the front row. Yeah. He just walked away with it. We had nothing for him, but yeah, fun racing with Jason Berg there. That was interesting.
And we were pitting next to Andrew Jokum. He won his heat. And I think that was a lot of help. He knows the track really well.
Yep.
He kind of introduced us to the track. He's the one that got you there. And then also kind of give you a lot of tips and pointers on how to approach it. Racing it for the first time. He was a lot of help, kind of getting you going.
Oh, yeah. Andrew's always kind of been that guy that maybe I lean on more than I should. He's always so helpful and kind of just gave me some tips on how to drive it, what the track usually does, where guys will usually go at certain points in the night. Gotcha. And, he was a lot of help tonight. Like after the heat, he kind of made some suggestions, and we did that, and it really helped. And just very, very thankful for him, like as a friend and a competitor, because he wants to see you do well.
Yeah, and the one thing that we talked about before that heat race was there was a driver starting on the pole that was making her their first time ever in a stock car. We kind of talk about how to approach that. She ended up doing very well, and then did it for her first time out there. I think had a great night. But you had to kind of maybe strategize a little bit how you approach that, not knowing, first time driver out there right in front of you when you want to get out there and try and get to the lead.
Yeah, it was we were definitely kind of planning a little bit more than I think we had to in the pits. Just different scenarios of okay, maybe if she's really showing that she wants to go to the bottom, maybe get to the top. But no, she did great. I wouldn't have guessed that was her first race in a stock car.
Absolutely.
Very smooth and consistent. So she must have a good group behind her, a lot of help there, and she was good. So we kind of followed her a little bit, and then finally I think we were able to poke under her lap 2 or 3, get around her on the back stretch and get in, maybe battling for the lead a little bit there, and then Dosh just started rolling the top, and kudos to him. I couldn't do it. I couldn't keep it up there. My car was better on the bottom. I was really lacking, drive off. That was really one thing. My car was good, entry, middle. It was doing really well, and then start kind of tailing out on the, on the back end of the corner. But
so now, what adjustments did we? Let's talk about the adjustments that we made here between that heat and the feature. Move some lead around. What were you kind of thinking? What was the plan of attack as you headed into the feature?
Just trying to get some, we had side bite. Our car was good on entry, so we didn't really have to fight it that way, especially with the new spring setup that I put in, it's the same setup out of my 2015 Harris Terminator, but put that in. We didn't really have to change too much there, so I think the spring setup is going to be pretty good. So we were just trying to get some lead. So we moved some lead, 25 pounds from the right side, and put it over on the left. Just trying to maybe get a little traction out of it. We moved the lead kind of forward. We didn't have it way far back, like back by the fuel. So we kind of had it up by the wheel. So it wasn't a lot of swing weight. It was just more flat out traction, just flat out left side percentage.
So from my point of view, watching that heat race, what I felt like the car was doing, it looked pretty good but you kind of struggled getting out of the corner, right? Getting that bike, getting that traction to kind of launch you out of the corner.
Yep, had to really wait until the car was straight and kind of rolling down the, I had to really wait and hold off on the throttle and get it straight and then kind of roll into it and just get it so it was pointed, and I had to wait and then roll into the throttle, and that's when I could get rolling. But obviously, especially a place like that, momentum is huge, and if you got to slow down and wait like that, obviously we proved it. We're going to be a third place car.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the redraw for the feature, not your best redraw, even though you had nothing to do with computer.
True Kesselberg racing fashion.
So you redraw 10th out of I think the 12 that would have redrew or whatever. Yeah. So right behind Andrew Jokum. And I think what we talked about with knowing Andrew was good, the plan was kind of just to follow Andrew.
Yep.
But I think it probably went out the door a little bit because he just kind of left you in the dust there for a little bit. Not entirely, but...
Yeah, I mean, kind of right away we were kind of splitting the field, or getting through everyone, and he was able to run like right through the middle and just get around everyone right away. And I was okay through the middle. Definitely not as good as his car worked. And, and then kind of had some traffic that kind of bottled me up a little bit, and then we had a caution kind of fairly early.
Yeah, you restarted in the 7th position. So you moved up 3 spots, and it seemed like that caution helped you. Restarting on the high side, there'd be another caution after that, but I think you still were in about the same spot, or 6 maybe the next time.
Yeah.
So we had a couple cautions here. Did the car feel better?
It felt, the changes that we made were huge. Definitely a step in the right direction. Noticing their scale after maybe a little on the heavy side, so I feel like we could have took some lead off of it and just flat out lighten the car. But the changes overall, I mean, the car was so drivable. I had I gained traction. I still had some side bite, and actually towards the end, the car started getting almost tighter. Don't mind us. Our Pit Pass podcast mobile booth is
it's getting its first caller.
Yep, it's interactive tonight.
Yeah.
Maybe one day we'll have callers on the show.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it was it was good.
So we got a kind of bit of a longer run there. You made your way up to about 5th spot, 6th, 5th. And then you went back to 6th, and then up to 5th, and that's where we'd end up. You moved around a little bit there. You tried the high lane, and it just seemed like the low lane just was better for you.
Yeah, I was a lot better on the bottom, especially coming out of 2, I could kind of wait, and there's a bunch of traction, so I could grab that. And then coming out of 4, I would kind of just float through the middle maybe, which, I got to figure out how I can get it so I can drive through the middle and attack the middle, and then be straight center off. So I kind of had to wait, grab traction in the bottom of 4 and the bottom of 2, and then drive out of the corner. I did try the high side a little bit. I think we could have been good up there. I got to be honest, lack of experience there, lack of laps. I wasn't confident in myself up there, so I maybe wasn't as high as I should have been.
Okay.
If I would have maybe came in on the traction up there and then held it up there and maybe floated down on exit, but just trying to slide in through the middle up to it, it just wasn't working. So back to the bottom I went. And just kind of catfish there. I think I was the only one in the top 5 running the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, for a while there, it was 3 wide by 3 wide in front of you.
Yep.
They were racing. I mean, it was really hard to get. You didn't really have anywhere else to go because the lanes were taken. They were racing hard in front of you, and it was really good. Multi-groove racing there for a while. Things started separating out a little bit towards the end, and. You moved up, you lost a spot there, and then at the end, I think the couple cars in front of you played a little bumper tag, and then slowed one of them down enough for you to kind of catch up to them and get back around them.
Yep.
I think you were faster than that car, and you just needed a little help getting back to them.
Yeah. I think I had a 5th place car. I mean, obviously, like, that was our goal. Like, that was our plan, was if we came here and we got a top 5, like, we were going to be happy with that. And that's what we did. I mean, we were a top 5 car. You know, maybe a gear change is going to be, if we come back.
Yep.
Definitely a gear change. I think I only turned, 6,000 RPM.
Oh.
And we're limited at 7,400, which, I don't like a lot of RPM, but I think that would have helped me maybe leaving the corner or on the top, maybe.
Yep.
Maybe it would have helped a little bit, but I think it would have made the car more responsive to where I was trying to run. But I guess hindsight's 2020, and
yeah,
we'll make the change for next time.
The car's mostly in one piece. No major. You got some bent up tin a little bit.
Yeah, we had some right side romance.
There was some contact there with you and another car out there. Did seem to find each other a couple times throughout the night.
Yeah, racing deal. It happens.
And I'm not gonna name names. That's not.
Nah.
But it sounds like even afterwards, a little disagreement on who caused what.
Yeah.
But again, it's just racing, and
I mean, I get okay. Have I came down into someone and tagged a little, got a little tire rub? Yes.
Yep.
Have I ever came down on someone, quote unquote, came down?
Yep.
Didn't happen.
Yeah.
But have I ever came down and folded my right side door inside out? Never. So I guess, especially in front of the driver's door, I mean, I guess if I didn't have the position, in my opinion, it would have been on the left rear, if anything. But for the left front to get wiped out, I guess whatever. It is what it is. It's kind of racing. If I wanted a show car, I would buy a Camaro, and I'd shine it up on the weekend, and I'd push it out in the driveway, and I'd wash it, and I'd push it back in.
I think that was the deal where that other driver was really aggressive. I think maybe you weren't, because the first time out on the track and first race of the year, and but you kind of had to be aggressive. I think especially on those restarts. Definitely. And that early in the race when there wasn't a lot of room on that racetrack, and there is a lot of room on that racetrack, but like everyone was side by side. So I mean, it kind of reminded me a lot of Fargo in that way, where you could run many different lines and whatnot. So, that person just kind of think was just really trying to get to the front.
He was driving hard. I don't know. I've been slid before.
Yep.
Usually you see it coming. Usually they're maybe next to you or ahead of you going into the corner. This was not the case. So whatever. I guess, you know what? I didn't wreck it.
Yep.
I didn't wad it up. I probably have a bent rear end. I probably bent the left front and right front suspension.
You did have a flat right rear.
We did have a flat right rear, yep. Yeah, we were going to load the car and the right rear was flat, but that was later on. I don't know. I guess in racing, in my opinion, I'm all about changing lanes and doing all that. But just like on the drop of a hat or a wink, going like, oh, I'm going to run the cushion in and come out on the bottom. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of that. It's just like when guys like run the bottom and slide all the way out to the wall and don't leave a lane and come all the way back down. To me, like, if you need that much of the racetrack, your car is not working that great.
Yeah.
I mean, if you need to do all of that to keep your spot, probably not doing that well.
Yeah. So, would you come back to Mandan?
Absolutely. I had a blast. Very, very Fargo, maybe mixed with a little Ada-esque going on.
Yep.
It's definitely reminded me a lot of Fargo. Maybe a little faster than Fargo. It definitely carries a lot more momentum than Fargo does.
Yep.
But I would say overall, like, this was a really good test for the car. I mean, being that we didn't get a test and tune.
Yep.
Which usually that's kind of nice, but nothing fell apart. Nothing fell off. We had brakes. It didn't blow up. We didn't run hot. What do you do?
Yeah, well, now you kind of start the year a little bit ahead of maybe some of your competitors, anyways, that you race with at Fargo and Ada a little bit. You get, you you get a few notes and things like that. You even have a test and tune coming up this next week. Are you going to go to the test and tune?
I don't know. Our mobile.
Man, everyone's wanting to talk about the night here tonight, but maybe we should have waited on the podcast. So that's even Jake Bitker calling in there.
Yeah, that's all right.
We could have talked to him.
He would have been an interesting one. He would have just told me I sucked.
He probably would have. But you didn't suck.
I didn't.
You were top 5. I didn't. As interim crew chief here tonight, how did I do? I guess that's the $1 million question.
Well, Mark, I gotta say you're 2 for 2 for top 5s when you come with us. So, I don't know. My dad, he better be sweating bullets here.
The joke kind of running during intermission or whatever in between races is, what was it? I don't know much about cars or whatever. I can't tell you how to drive the car or something. How to drive the mindset. Was that what it was?
Yeah, how to drive the mind.
Drive the mind.
Yep. And you know what? A little bit of a positive outlook that goes a long way. Especially, I hate to say, I'm pretty easy to like get down in the dumps, or I'm not confident in it. I don't show up and be like, I'm gonna win this race tonight. Like, maybe in the wrong mindset, but for me, like, racing is just, I love it. It's just fun. If I can go anywhere and race, I'm happy as a clam.
Yeah, absolutely. And How to Drive the Mind. Drive the Mind is my new book that will be out soon.
Self-titled.
Yeah, Drive the Mind. No, it was fun too. For me, I don't get to spend a lot of time in the pits working on cars, things like that. I'm not like a super great mechanic or anything like that. But I really enjoyed the opportunity to do the different things. You had me grinding tires.
Yep.
You had me changing tires.
Yep.
You had me
filling fuel,
filling other fluids. So that's kind of fun. Like, I guess I don't get that opportunity to do that very often. And I grew up with a family of mechanics where they're the ones that did it. Like, they didn't trust me, so they just went and did it, right? So it's nice that you trust me enough to do some very, very simple tasks, and I get to feel like part of a team for a little bit. And without me there, I'm sure you would have been just fine. But I tell you what, I'm sure it's nice to have an extra hand to do some of those simple little things.
Just having someone to hand you a wrench or hold a flashlight. I mean, that's huge. Like,
I did a great job holding the flashlight.
Like all of that, and having another pair of eyes that's watching like just your car on the track.
Yeah.
I mean, just having that is very helpful, and someone just to bounce ideas off of. Because, I mean, you and I, like we went back and forth, like, oh, well, maybe we should try this, or we should try that, or, of course, like, me being a driver, I want to throw the kitchen sink and then some at it. So maybe just having a little voice of reason, that was probably a good thing.
Yeah, I think when you were doing some changes or whatever during between the heat and the feature, and I don't remember if I said it, but I remember thinking it, like, I bet you he's going to change some lead. And you didn't for a while. Like, I kind of wanted to, like, leave the trunk on or whatever. Like, he's probably going to change some lead. Yep. And sure last minute, changing the lead. And I'm like, I knew you were going to do that.
Yep.
You could just
race before us is on the track, and we're trying to bolt these lead clamps on. And
you kind of got out there last minute, by the way. I was surprised, like, and part of the issue was, like, the scoring and timing wasn't working. So, like, you didn't know what lap they were on the track in front of you. And all of a sudden, like, by the time you got in your car and got into staging,
it was like right away.
That race was ended, and you were on the track. I wasn't even up in the grandstands to watch you yet when you were on the track. Like, so I was like, whoa, that's quick. So we maybe were a little bit behind there.
And usually, like, especially Ada and Fargo, I don't know. This sounds so dumb, but I wait till the last second to get in my car. I'm quick to get in. I really like if I can watch like the first 5 laps of the feature before us. I almost think that's like an advantage.
Okay.
Because everyone else is in their car, they're in staging, they don't, but if I can go up and just get that last look at the track and just, okay, these guys are running here. It looks like maybe the track will start moving here. In my opinion, that's an advantage. If I can get just a little more information on what the track is doing, over the competition, I guess, I think that is an advantage. So I don't try to be exactly like last minute, but I do try to, if I can, and obviously we couldn't tonight, but if I can and I'm parked close enough, I like to watch, the first 5 laps of the feature, and then go climb in the car and get ready, and then you kind of start locking in. But
that was kind of the challenge, is we were kind of parked far away.
We
actually weren't parked far away from staging, but to where we would watch the race, it was a pretty far walk.
Yeah, and and that's some of that stuff too. People don't think about it, but if you can have a ladder to the roof of your trailer,
that's
an advantage. I mean, if you can just run up there, take a glance, and come back, I mean, that's just stuff like that. I think that is an advantage. Little things like having the trailer organized. I mean, that's an advantage, because you're, it's not that you need a big trailer or anything like that. If you're organized, you're efficient. And when you're efficient, you can make changes and be comfortable about it, because you're not rushing. You're not trying to run back and forth and figure everything out. If I need a 3/4 wrench or a 9/16 wrench, and you know exactly where that is, that makes you efficient. And then you're more confident in making those last minute changes. So I'm big about that. Everything in our trailer has a spot. It all has a home. Everything goes in the same spot, so I know exactly where it is. So that way, if I do want to make a last minute decision, it's nothing. It's quick, So just all that stuff, all of that helps you become a more competitive racer. It's not that you need all the fancy stuff. You don't need any of that. If you're efficient and you are organized, that's an advantage in itself.
A little pro tip out there for some other drivers, and you don't need a lot of wrenches, and you're probably only using a few different ones.
No.
You're probably using those same different ones every week.
Yep. We used a 9/16 and a 3/4 wrench tonight.
Yep.
That was it.
We did.
Your pit socket on your impact. That's about it.
And I put them back in the right spot.
Yeah, it was perfect. Sure. Yeah.
And I will say your trailer is very well organized and very clean. I don't know if it stays that clean necessarily throughout the year, but no, it actually it is. I'm pretty sure of the other times.
I try, yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice.
Outside, maybe not. You maybe wouldn't notice, but inside definitely. But
it's the little things of being organized and things like that certainly help.
Little fun fact here as we're passing. Local racing legend Tony Brockhouse was in Mandan.
Yeah, is that we're passing
this
right
is
now?
Him right now.
Wow.
Maybe he'll listen back on the podcast.
Absolutely. Yep. This is Tony. When you listen to the podcast, this is the point where we passed you on the interstate.
Yeah.
And I didn't see how many of his cars did here tonight, but Scotty Richardson was up there tonight, and Ty Wilkie.
Yeah.
They had
I think the Bunnis kids were with him.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was 44 legends tonight. 44 legends.
That's wild.
My goodness.
That's wild.
That says a lot for that sport.
That's and that class just continues to go. I mean, look at all the cars that we're gaining in Fargo, and
I think we averaged 29 cars last year in Fargo, and we had as many as 34 or 30. Yep. I mean,
and there's more in the area this year. So that class will be one thing to really look forward to, and it's so competitive, and it's a really good thing that we have around the area. It's a good feeder class. Kids come out of the go-karts and they go into that, and it's not even just kids. I mean, there's a lot of seasoned veterans in that class. That makes it so fun to watch.
Yeah, and especially we mentioned a guy like Scotty Richardson that is a good mentor to a lot of kids, and teaching them how to race. And Brockhouse, part of that group, teaching them how to race properly, teaching the ins and outs of the race car, leading by example. I think is really good. I look at some of those guys in the class. Again, mentioned Richardson, leads by example, right?
Yep.
He's not going to be wrecking people. He's not going to be driving with his head up, as you know what, ever. And if he does, he'll be the first to admit it. It's good to have guys like that in the class to kind of lead with those younger kids and give them advice and help them out.
Speaking of kids and feeder classes, did you get to watch any of the slingshot races tonight?
I did not. So, they had slingshots there tonight.
So a slingshot it's a go-kart give or take. It's a caged go-kart, and it's got like a, like a winged body or like a, kind of a modified body on it.
It looks like a big block modified, but a tiny,
it does, yeah.
A tiny big block modified.
Yep, a tiny one, and like that class too. There's some older people in it, but it's mostly kids, and they have a 2-cylinder. I think it's a Briggs and Stratton. I think it is, but it's 2-cylinder, on methanol.
Wow.
Yep, on methanol. They got racing shocks, coilovers, good dirt racing tires. That was kind of a cool class. I kind of wish we would have got to watch them a little bit more, because they had a handful of cars here tonight. Like,
I think so. I think they had like 8 or something like that. Like,
I see them so they have them at Jamestown Speedway.
Yep.
And like going out there with the parts trailers and stuff. I do try to make it a point to watch that class. Usually they only have 4 or 5 of them. All really young kids just getting into it. But it's kind of cool because they actually, they race hard and they actually get going pretty quick. They're maybe not as fast as like a bomber, but maybe they're close to a bomber.
And it's not like they're really spinning out or anything. I don't think they go quite. But I think the good point of like a class like that is maybe it gets some kids used to being at a racetrack, like at the big track. These tracks are probably too big for them to really be good. It'd be nice if you had them on like an 8th mile or something like that.
Yeah.
Or like, or a 5th mile or something like that. I think Glendon probably works out pretty well for them. But like, it gets them used to getting staged. They have a receiver in them. I'm guessing maybe they probably have a receiver.
Yep, they do.
So it gets them used to hearing the cues, gets them used to all this stuff. So when they do make that jump to a legend car or whatever, which probably like the next natural progression for something like that.
Yep.
Okay, they understand how everything works.
Yep, the dynamics of being at a racetrack. Keeping an eye on the order of events, keeping an eye on staging, keeping an eye on lineups. Just getting all that. I think that is important, and that's one thing that like we're lucky with the Red River Valley Kart Club. They're very good about that, of staging and learning the flags and learning how to listen on a radio and what to listen for. So that's all important. It's important to keep the sport going, keep growing the sport.
And it's a thing that, is it necessary? Probably not. Like, they'd figure it out.
Yeah.
But it probably avoids any bad habits.
Yep.
It gets rid of some of those, and kind of just gets them on the right path and get rid of those bad habits when you're young and just, so they can focus on racing, and that other stuff comes second nature to them.
Right.
Yeah, and so then they end up in a legend car, and then the nice thing after that, it's kind of up to them once they get into that legend car. They can go to a sport mod, they can go to a stock car, they can go to a sprint car.
Yep.
They can really go wherever they want. So
the thing about a legend car, and people don't realize it, the power to weight ratio with a legend is like amazing. Like, it's outstanding. It's crazy. For like what they are and how light they are, they have a lot of power.
Yeah.
And no power steering, nothing like that. And they're rack and pinion steering, so it's a quick ratio steering. And Jesse Sklicki, they were big into legends. Mm-hmm. He still is one of the biggest, supporters. And Andrew Jokum, he was the same. He was in a legend too. Those guys say, if you can drive a legend, you can pretty much drive anything. If you can control that power and keep it smooth, jumping into the next class is going to be pretty easy.
Well, those have a solid rear end, correct?
Yep. They're like I think technically they're like a Toyota rear end, but they're a 9-inch Ford, style kind of.
And it's, they're a narrow wheelbase. And so, like, if you can learn how to control, like, if you can put that car in the edge and learn how to control a car like that, those other cars are going to come a lot simpler.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like a sprint car is kind of a good, like, I think would be a really good progression. But, I mean, we've seen everyone do it in multiple classes. We've seen kids have success in sport mods, in stock cars, like Brody Carlser came out of that, obviously, and then the sprint cars too, Ty Wilkie. So we've seen kind of guys run the gamut of where they end up and have success. So
Yeah, it's a good class.
Great class. Yeah. I think the big show, Jason Wallow won the mods tonight. I didn't get to see the mod feature.
Andrew and I got to watch it from the infield.
Okay.
That was really cool. I mean, if anyone gets the opportunity to watch a race from the infield, do it. It is a whole different perspective on everything. So that was cool. He started on the front row and just kind of checked out, but he was smooth and consistent, and he was good. But Modifieds had a good race.
Speaking of perspective, I think just in general, if you get an opportunity to change your perspective of where you watch a race, if you sit in the middle of the racetrack, go sit, or like in the middle in the grandstands. Like if you normally sit, right at the flag stand, go to turn 4 if you can.
Yep.
Like in Grand Forks, or go to turn 1. Like there you have an opportunity to sit, or Glendon, you can do the same. Fargo kind of depending on the night. Like they don't normally have the grandstands all the way open a regular night, but change your perspective. Go in the pits and watch it. Watch it from the infield if you somehow have the opportunity.
Yep.
You learn things, like you see things differently. Like, I like in Grand Forks, I'd like sitting up in turn 4 or turn 1. Turn 1's really good to get in the way, like East End or whatever. You can see passes happening a lot more clearly, like ahead of time, because you notice the drivers changing lanes differently and setting up for passes, and I don't know, you see that better from those different perspectives versus head on is not, I don't think, is the best place to watch a race. I mean, it's cool, you see the whole everything, but I feel like sitting in the corners is a way better place to watch a race.
That's my two favorite places, and I don't hardly ever get to do it, but if you can sit up in turn 4 in West Fargo.
Yep.
I really like the view from the pit stands in River City Speedway.
Oh, yep.
And then the patio, like the balcony up in Buffalo River Speedway.
Mm-hmm.
I like that view. Like when they're coming out of 4, I think that's so cool. Like just being, because you're kind of right in the middle of the corner. I don't know. I think that's such a cool view, and I don't hardly ever get to do it, but once in a while I get to.
Yeah, and you get to see kind of how the cars are reacting a little differently and things like that. So yeah, change your perspective. And then in the infield's cool because it's noisy.
It's
noisy. Like
you feel it.
If you're there, I got to watch at River City Speedway, like the World of Outlaw Sprint cars from the infield, and I had in Fargo too, I guess.
How'd you get to do that in River Cities?
Just helping Mike Speaker take some photos one night.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Just whatever. Just hanging along, helping him or whatever, and oh my goodness. First of all, ear piercing. Bring like when you get those 410s going all the way around you.
Yeah.
And I've done that at the sites too, like on a 92 lap feature when they're going around and around you, like it's just a vortex of sound.
Yep. Especially when they get spread out.
Yep.
Because then it's just never ending. Where when they're in a pack, it's kind of like, all right, hang on. All right, now it's quiet. Then they come around again. But when it gets spread out like that, it's just never ending. It's just constant.
And you just feel so close to the action, and
that's why we love racing.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a chuckle tonight. Obviously, it's been a while, right, since we've been on a racetrack.
Yep.
When we fired up the car for the first time and we had the hood off, and like you could smell the race fuel.
Oh, yep.
Oh man,
I just took that in. Took a second to just breathe that in a little bit.
You just had to that was. It's dumb things like that, like little things like that's why I love racing. It's just, the smell of it, the feel of it, the rumble, the sound.
Going back to what we talked about in the first half of this episode, it's the experience, man.
It's the experience.
It's the experience.
Yep. If you get a chance, and I know I'm always looking, but people that race, they never have enough help. So if you get a chance to pit crew or help or what, you should do it.
Yeah.
A lot of times if you're helping, guys will either pay your entry or they'll buy you dinner.
Hey, thanks by the way.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's perks of the job.
Yep.
But people that race could always use another hand. And it's not just, it's not just at the races. It's at home. It's in the shop. You could always have a person, do simple stuff. Simple stuff.
Scrape some mud.
Grind some tires. grease stuff, bolt check, just stuff like that. It's super easy. It doesn't take a lot of mechanical knowledge because a race car is pretty simple.
And it's fun to feel like I mentioned it. So it's fun to kind of be a part of something, to be a part of a team.
Yeah. And the camaraderie.
And the camaraderie. It's nice when that car goes on the track that you put the tire on or whatever, that you got a stake in the game a little bit.
Yep.
You really, not only are you just cheering for that driver because it's your friend or someone or whatever. You're cheering for that guy because
you had a hand in the success.
You had a hand in it, so you want to see that driver do well, and it makes it all that much sweeter when you get a win or get a top 5 and whatnot, and it just you feel like you earned it a little bit, or it just, I don't know, it's fun to kind of celebrate with that person, and to do that. So that's go pit for someone.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Absolutely.
And you might learn a few new things. You learn some things about what goes on and what's going on in the driver's head, and it's kind of why we're doing this podcast, to kind of give people an understanding of what's going on during the race.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So now, are we going to do this again next week? That's the question.
I don't know. I got to see how the work schedule lines up, but they have a 2-day show, so they have a Friday, Saturday, which the Friday conflicts with Red River Valley Speedway's opener.
Yep.
So probably not doing that. Probably not doing Friday, but if I have all my ducks in a row for the store, and really work at it, and then I gotta check the car over, and I'm pretty sure I bent the rear end and all that, but I think Saturday would be a lot of fun to go out for this deal. But like I've said before, I'm not really like a schedule racer. I'm more of like if it lines up with my schedule and I'm not doing anything, I'll go race. But I've love racing, love doing it. I do have priorities outside of racing too.
Yep.
Unfortunately, but adulting's a scam. But anyway, it's just the way of the world, I guess.
Yeah, back to reality of the wife and the kid and all those other things, and the yard and the
it's all good though.
Yeah.
It's all good.
No, it was a good night of racing. Looking back, as you mentioned, I think you finished 5th tonight. You had a 5th place car, and maybe could have, I don't know. I think you finished about where you could have tonight. A few adjustments, you could have been better. Yeah. I think you did a great job driving that car, and it was a good night of racing. And anything else you want to add before we close out the Pit Pass podcast here for the evening?
I think we're going to bring a tent next time and just stay.
Yeah, it is currently late.
12:11,
and we got about at least 2.5 more hours, I think, until we get back to Fargo. And then
plus, we both have an hour drive after
home.
that.
Yep. Oh,
that's right. That's why we do it.
Yeah, I think I'm going to tell the wife I'm sleeping in tomorrow. I think that's my
maybe plan. One thing that would be cool, if anyone has any suggestions or kind of, if anyone wants to learn about something or whatever, drop us a comment.
Yeah.
Drop us a comment, share, follow, subscribe. Possibly, maybe looking at doing some video stuff on the old YouTube, maybe.
Yeah. So, and I was going to do more like video blogging tonight. I started it in the truck on the way to Fargo, and that was the only update I got because I was just too busy. You kept me too busy tonight, Calvin. I didn't get the chance, so which is kind of a bummer. But we're just hoping to do a lot more just content in general. I think whether that's video or otherwise. Maybe we'll get to the day where the video is live video while we record the podcast. We'll get to that one day. But these videos the podcasts are on YouTube now, or will be on YouTube. So if you just like to have YouTube on in the background or Spotify, you got options.
Yep.
But tell your friends, follow, share, do all that, and keep growing this podcast. And as you mentioned, get ideas, let us know. Perfect. Calvin, great night of racing, and a long road ahead of us.
Long night ahead, but thank you all for listening, and thanks for making this possible.